Cyberpunk 2077 is in a pretty good spot right now. It just finished the year with some of the best updates since its launch, a lot more features and improvements added throughout 2022, and a much more positive view from both its fans and most gaming outlets likewise. That's why today we'll take a retrospect look at some of the most defining moments in Cyberpunk's last year run and why it's totally worth playing even more in 2023. That being said, Cyberpunk had only 2 major updates in the past 12 months, but they were significant enough to add more than all its previous patches combined, as 2022 already started with a bang thanks to the next-gen upgrade brought with update 1.5 back in February last year. This meant a whole range of visual quality improvements, including the addition of ray trace lights and shadows for the next-gen consoles, including faster loading times and support for the new PS5 adaptive triggers. For old-gen consoles, this also came with new performance improvements and the performance mode, of which Digital Foundry noted to significantly decrease the number of FPS drops, improve render quality, and thus making for a much more stable gameplay. By far the most exciting though were the free DLCs, brand new features and items, some of which became integral parts of any new gameplay runs after 1.5. My favorite of them all is the Fixer standing system that organically added cool new rewards upon finishing all the gigs for certain characters in Night City. This included the awesome new Quadra 640 TS that you can acquire once you're done with all Dinovix gigs in the city center, or the modified Thornton that Dakota Smith gives you once you're done with her gigs in the Badlands. Some of these fixers also provide cool new weapons like Padre's Seraph legendary pistol that comes with an increased chance to set enemies on fire with each new hit, or El Capitan's Bloody Maria shotgun that not only looks really good with the graphics on it, but it simply is devastating against human enemies. And by far my favorite, the Byakko katana, which is one of the most unique melee weapons in the game because it includes a launch gap closer that you can use once you're too far from enemies. And this doesn't even include many of the rebalances and the new weapons added at Wilson's gun shop, also with 1.5 and later on in 1.6. And already this included something like the Guillotine SMG, the Umbra AR, and a lot of epic quality attachments to really wreak havoc on your enemies. But do you know what also lets you wreak havoc on your enemies? That's right, it's War Thunder. Also a massive thanks to the team for sponsoring today's video. War Thunder offers the most immersive vehicle combat gameplay, and it's fully playable on both PC, next-gen, and old-gen consoles likewise. You can play and choose between more than 2,000 different tanks, planes, ships, and choppers in some of the most intense and dynamic PvP battles out there. There's really a lot of room for tactical plays here, including camouflage, but you can also go for pure aesthetics with its deep customization system. The game features dynamic vehicle damage and even an X-ray mode that I really like, especially since it lets you see exactly what happens with your enemies when you obliterate them. And it's all easy to control too with a mouse aim, especially flying aircrafts and whatnot. All it takes is just a keyboard and mouse. So totally check out War Thunder using my links down below. There is also a massive premium bonus pack you get for free right now, including multiple vehicles, boosters, and lots of other cool stuff on top. Of course, Edgerunners being the frontrunner of the update in 1.6 a few months back meant we also got the show's iconic Guts shotgun, one of the most powerful weapons in the entire game since then. But on top of that, we also had 6 more firearms and 5 new melee weapons, including unique ones such as the Senko SMG, QBAR, hypercritical rifle, all the way to some interesting new melee concepts like the chainsword and many of the other powerful knives that followed since then. Another big change that started with 1.5 is definitely appearance customization, as now players could go up to any mirror and make changes to their characters, including hair, makeup, colors, and even piercings, no longer leaving you stuck with the options from the character creation screen. This was brought up to the literal next level after 1.6 when CD Projekt Red further added the wardrobe feature and the possibility to perform more drastic body changes at Ripper Dogs. The wardrobe in particular definitely became my favorite, as now collecting gear became more important than ever, with several presets being creatable that you could switch between at any given time if you were in the mood for a different look for your character. This would go perfectly with some of the clothing vendor changes that followed up later in 1.5 and 1.6, which added a much wider range of clothing options to pick between, but also at the cost of losing some of the other legendary options. Similar to the mirrors, Ripper Dogs now also had the ability to change your looks, except it does go a bit deeper than the mirror one. In exchange for a few eddies, it's now possible to completely go back on your character looks and change face features such as the jaw, nose, mouth, and so on, giving you almost complete control over your character's looks past the creation screen. Now, some of the other changes that started with 1.5 also included the addition of 4 new apartments that you can rent in some of the most iconic areas of Night City. This includes the apartment in Northside, Japantown, the Glen, and finally the most luxurious of them all, in Corpo Plaza. These all go for different prices on the Easy Estate website, but they each feature additional skins and color presets if you're in the mood for another change. CD Projekt Red obviously had to step up in this case too, which is why they added cool new interactions and as a result temporary buffs from them. We already know that taking a shower gives you a health regen buff for about an in-game hour, but this also provides a 20% skill XP buff during that duration if you also go ahead and nap with your character. Some of the new interactions though, such as the brewing of coffee, will give you the energized buff, which provides a 25% max stamina and a 30% stamina regen boost all the way through. Though I will also add that there's other interactions in these new apartments that might not necessarily provide any buffs, but are certainly very cool to look at. The open world has seen even more changes since 1.5, with a big emphasis on making the world feel a lot more dynamic. One of the ways CD Projekt Red has achieved this is by adding new random events involving the police. While a few of these existed prior to 1.5, a lot more police and gang interactions were added throughout Night City right after, including shootouts, car chases, and other such similar scenarios. You can of course choose to just act as an innocent bystander or even get involved with them for your own personal benefit, but you do get in the way of the firepower in that case. Furthermore, I also noticed a lot more traffic stops, though it's noteworthy that some of these existed prior to 1.5 as well, though some of them are definitely new and definitely interesting. To go alongside the more lively open world, the AI has also seen some massive improvements ever since the start of last year, with patch 1.5 making crowd AI a lot more interactable. This added a new aggressive crowd behavior where you will see various NPC archetypes that can and will enter combat with you when provoked or shot at. Another one was the extra improvements to crowd reactions, pathfinding, and despawning. You will oftentimes notice NPCs, especially ones driving vehicles, that now can do more than just sit idly in fear in case you're violent next to them, and instead will now choose to run recklessly through traffic, cause mayhem, or even crash into some of the other cars as they flee away from you. Improving the crowd AI didn't just stop there, as patch 1.6 brought another significant change with more dynamic body reactions when bumping into pedestrians. Not only would this make some pedestrians enter this kinda like tripping animation, but some would also become aggressive towards you if you happened to pester them for too long. The final change came in 1.61, as it seems that NPCs finally became aware that they can use umbrellas during rainy weather instead of just staying there and getting soaked for no reason. These umbrellas would come in different shapes and colors, and in my opinion makes things a lot more cinematic, especially during the nighttime. Now, combat is another key area that changed a lot, both for V and his enemies. Melee and ranged combat AI got progressively better reactions over the course of the past year, including taking cover, positioning, equipping weapons, dodging, and so on. And you might have noticed that many elite enemies now become capable of evading many of your attacks during Kerenzikov, for example, which is something that they did not do, or at least not as often, before 1.5. But they will definitely do so right now. Many of the gang-related enemies also got other behavior changes to make them feel more unique. Some of them might be a lot more aggressive or reckless, others can be more balanced, defensive, and even more cautious. In fact, 1.5 redefined many of the builds and some of the other things that weren't possible before 1.5. One came in the form of the rework of the throwing knives perk, so now they don't become lost after being thrown once, but instead will return after a set cooldown. This let us create arguably one of the most fun builds in whole Cyberpunk 2077, and I will probably have to dedicate a whole video to that just because of how awesome it can be. But the change to make monowire scale with reflexes instead of the body stat is what really made the reflex cold blood melee builds out of this world. The monowire had a pretty big advantage to any other melee weapon because it had by far the longest range, but now that it scales with reflexes, it immediately becomes strong even early on, no matter the difficulty you play on. So totally worth checking that out if this is your first playthrough. There's definitely a lot more that was added both in 1.5 and especially 1.6. We also got brand new quests in 1.6 that, in my opinion, kind of gives us hints towards what to expect in Phantom Liberty. So where does all of this leave us? Well, pretty much all set for this next expansion. There's still the question of vehicle combat and a better police system, but all of these were officially confirmed for the 2023 update cycle anyways, alongside the expected melee combat improvements, new areas, and the interesting set of characters. This is by far the best time to play the game. Just like how it is probably the best time to also try out War Thunder, the sponsors of today's video, and get yourself a sweet premium pack of awesome items by simply following the links in the description box down below. Anyway, I got a lot more Cyberpunk videos coming, so definitely make sure you stay tuned for that. Also a lot more Hogwarts Legacy as we're getting close to launch, so also maybe like, subscribe if you want to see more of that. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.